Alright, so now we're going to take a look at currently the only operating SNS at Six Flags Great America. That'll change obviously soon with their new ride that launches into a brake run. But anyway, my opinion on this ride, I think it's alright. Do I think it belongs at a place like Six Flags Great America that has 2 million visitors a year? No, I do not. I think it's lame for this place. Is it better than what it replaced? I guess. I don't think it was worth removing Orbit or removing Batman's old queue line that used to go over here from the 90s. I thought that was a better attraction than this ride. But anyway, this ride was so simple to operate. It was unreal. Here's the panel. So, pretty simple. The button's over here. So the train would come in, switch to unlock, and then it wasn't called lock, it was called check. And this is the only coaster at Great America that has a lighted switch. So when it was unlocked, they would obviously unlock. When you change it to check, the restraint to lock, and then once all of them were locked, this would light up. And then there are 2 enable panels out on the track, or in the station. Let's see if I have any pictures of the station. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So there's one right here and one right here. So similar to X-Flight, this person has to hold their button, this person has to hold their button, and then you have to push these 2. And you push and hold them for forever. So you have to wait for this train to go up the lift, the other train to come in and park at the base, then the other train to come in and park in Station 1, and then for the other train to come in and park in Station 2. And then you could let go. This ride, like X-Flight, also didn't have mushroom buttons, so it was not very pleasurable to hold these down, I'll tell you that. Ride start, similar function to all the other rides. If you hit a ride stop, hit the ride start, that would start it up. Startup tone, if you've ever been to a water park, the tone that the conveyors that bring the rafts to the top of the slides make when it's starting and stopping, it's the exact same tone. That's what they used for this. E-stop over here. This was to reset trouble lights or ride errors. They would show up on here. I don't really have a great picture of this, but basically these are all the things that need to be illuminated before you can dispatch a train. So the restraints, the gates, all had sensors on them. So those all had to be illuminated, and then the dispatch interval. And the dispatch interval was, if I remember correctly, I haven't operated this ride since 2017. But once the second train got to like right here, it would let you send the next 2 around, and it could run up to 5 trains. These days, I doubt they'll run all 5 anymore because it doesn't really give you any added capacity benefit. The thing that's annoying with it, when you're running 4 trains or 3 trains, especially 3 trains, when you're running 4 trains, you have to wait for the cars to park in the brake run before you can advance them in. Like, you can't just bring in 1 at a time. So if you're running 3 trains, you send 2 out, and this one stays here, and you have to wait for that first car to get all the way around, come in and park, and then you can bring those 2 in. So that was ridiculous. The only really added benefit of having that 5th car was that you never had to wait for a car to come around, because if you were running only 4, you had to wait till it came down and parked before you could bring those 2 in. So sometimes you would have to have like a 15-second delay in between sending trains and the next 2 coming in. I think on Fiesta Texas's version, which was the prototype, they have a brake up here that's controlled via piston like this one. This one, I talked to SNS. They said it's automatic, so it can tell how fast the train's coming through here, and if it needs to, this will pop up. If it's going slow enough, it'll stay down. Also something interesting, so this was taken while the ride was under construction. And if you take a look at the ride today, these are gone. They removed these fins, both of these sets. And the reason for that is right after we opened, Six Flags Over Texas, I think you've probably seen this. It was all over the news. They decided they were going to operate this during a windstorm. So what do you think happened? It got stuck up here. Even though this ride's pretty much foolproof. Like, if a car is going too slow, it'll give you a warning on here, like car 2 speed drop warning. And you were supposed to let maintenance know. And usually they just came out, and the issue was, for whatever reason, it didn't capture how fast the train was going, so it said it was going 0 miles an hour. But actually, when it was windy, it was helpful because you kind of knew, all right, they're getting a little too slow, we're going to stop. But they took these out to reduce the friction up here on the top level, so it can't stop up here. And the green side has more fins than the purple side. I always thought the green side was better. And I thought the ride was better when these fins were up here. Now, it's like half the time when you ride on the purple side, you're just, gliding up and down. You're not rotating at all. But anyway, let's get back here. Your modes: auto maintenance, transfer, maintenance enable would let them send it without the dispatch buttons being pressed. Block clear, that would be used when you're clearing blocks. The blocks there are 4 stations, or 4, yeah, they call them stations because I think that they have it programmed like that because the bigger model of these has more stations. But it's like station 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the brake. Because there's a set of friction brakes down here that usually remain open unless this block is occupied, so usually the train just glides through. But if there's 4 trains backed up, the 5th one will stop here at that brake. So something pretty interesting about this ride is the manual override. So if a train gets stopped on the lift, and for whatever reason the computer system is throwing some error, maybe some sensor's broken, and it won't let you get it over. Since there's no way to evacuate people from here, even the Gurney Fire Department, they don't have a fire truck that can reach up there. So if something happens and people get stuck up there, they're going to be up there for a while till they figure out how to get people down, because there's no ladder that reaches up there in that county. But anyway, if a train gets stopped on there, there's this manual override. It's kind of like launching a nuke. So the way it works is, and it even says on here, it's only a certain amount of people should be trained how to do this, and pretty much the director of maintenance would be the only one who could ever do this, and you need 3 people total in order to do this. So some of the things: the emergency stop buttons will not function. The computer will ignore the block logic. Basically, this function just turns on the lift motor. It will ignore all the other buttons on the ride. So what happens is you take this key out, and then you put it in here, and that unlocks these 2. And you take these 2 B keys, and I don't have a picture of it, but there's a panel right here, and there's a panel over here. So one person has to go here, one person has to go here, and they both put their keys in and turn them. And then there's a final single switch panel over here that enables it. So those 2 people could go turn the key, and then this person will put their key in, turn to the right, and that'll turn on the lift motor to the highest setting and hopefully throw the train over. And if any of them let go of their keys, then the motor will stop. But we never had to use it. I highly doubt that they'll ever have to use it. Maybe in like 10-15 years when this thing is not properly maintained anymore and things break. This is underneath the panel. Very clean, pretty standard. These are the buttons, so that's what it looks like underneath. You get your ground and your voltage, whatever, touchscreen. So this is the electrical room. Computer. So all rides have a computer, but they do not run off the computer. They run off a PLC, programmable logic controller, like robots. All the computer is just an interface to tell you what the errors are. You can't really change settings in here. It's just a computer program that tells you what the error is and how to fix it. This is the Halon system. So something very Six Flags, this is the Aperture booth, is when the ride first opened, we couldn't figure out why the phone kept stopping work. It wouldn't work at some certain points. Like you'd be talking on the phone and then all of a sudden it would stop working. And the reason for that is they put the phone line in the same conduit as the lift motor conduit, which in the same conduit area as the power lines that go to the lift motor, which obviously draws a ton of power. So when the lift motor was on, it would be drawing all this power, which would disrupt the phone signal. Once again, how Six Flags has been open for 44 years and they still haven't figured out stuff like this. You'd think that they would have run into this problem before. I guess not. But it is what it is. So here's the plaque. Maybe I shouldn't show this, but serial number, model number. Passenger capacity. This is the only ride I've ever seen where the manufacturer's capacity is actually lower than what we were able to achieve. I've seen 750 hours here before when I worked there. And so we didn't call these spoons. That's what they're called. The rotating seats, they're called spoons. That's me. I can't remember what we called them. I think Fiesta Texas calls them spoons. But that's what those are technically called. And then, so this, one day, and this must have been before we opened. I remember there's some enthusiast that goes to the park all the time, and he was so annoying. And you know, we're just here telling people, hey, come check the ride out later. You can't ride it right now. But of course this guy has to push buttons, and he kept trying to walk in, and we would tell him not to. And he would make this huge fuss, like, oh, I'm just trying to get pictures of the ride, man. And he, like, literally even one time, he walked in past us. He's like, I want to get a picture of the height estimation stick. I'm like, dude, this ride's going to be here for decades. I think you'll have plenty of time to figure that out. But of course he blasted me on Facebook, on his little Facebook page. There's a couple videos out there that exist of people ranting about me, but they don't really understand how the real world works, and that no one really cares about their problems. Throughput budget, daily amount of riders. This was the anemometer. I think that's what these are called. Tell you the wind speed. I think it was, so when it first opened, the maximum wind speed you could allow was sustained gusts of 35 miles per hour. Then when the not Texas Giant. God, that park is terribly run. The Joker at Six Flags Over Texas, when they valeted that thing, then it lowered to 25. And let me tell you, Lake County, the average wind speed is about 22. And so all the time we'd have to go down because it went over 25. Then I think fine at corporate, once they got rid of those spoons, or not spoons, the magnetic fins that make the thing spin, then we bumped it back up to 25, or a 30. So that was a little bit better. But it was always funny, you know, when we'd get these little bursts of wind and we had to wait 30 minutes for it to die down again, because it wasn't a sustained gust, it was just a single gust. If there was a single gust that set this alarm off, you had to go down for 30 minutes. And I always loved telling people, oh yeah, we're down for weather, and it would be like 80 degrees, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and they'd be like, what? Oh yeah, it's a little too windy. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to talk about this ride. It was alright, very boring to operate, kind of like X-Flight, you're all by yourself. It was nice that there was air conditioning in there. That was nice when it worked, that is. Some pictures of when it was being built, when I was there in the off-season. This is the station and the brake run. The brakes are up here behind where this person's taking the picture. This is pretty cool. This is from the top before it opened. But yeah, I think that's about it. See you guys in the next one.